Oh. Oh. Oh! This is no retrospective. This is about to be a goddamn love letter.
Dear Link, please dye your hair pink. I made you a video. Yours truly,
Keaton! Look, it's fantastic. It's great. It's a link to my past and my heart. It's the Legend of Zelda. A link to the past. There is no doubt that The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was incredibly impactful for its time. Did you know that this gem of a game is 32 years old? More like 32 years young, the way it hasn't aged today. Now let's take a listen to what this game was like for people who grew up with it back around its original release in 1992.
It was definitely kind of going back a little bit like a year before, because the NES came out, I think, in North America around 91. And I always remember Front Row Video. They had a kiosk with the Super Nintendo in it, and they had Super Mario World. And just watching, so you could play it, get a feel for it, because you used to be able to rent the systems and games. It was a heavy deposit though, so it wasn't something that you rented very often, or not at all. But it was cool that they had the kiosk there, and it was just amazing. Just the colors, the textures, the graphics, just everything about it. I mean, even just the Mario game itself is like, oh man, this is just like next level compared to the previous installment.
I can't tell you the exact year, the exact age. I want to say I was 9 or 10, which should give you an idea of how late I played that game. I believe the N64 had come out or was coming out, and I was given that game by my sister's boyfriend at the time. And I think he was just kind of unloading his collection because I think he'd upgraded to the N64. And he was like, hey, I got 3 games. You want them? Those 3 games were Zelda, which we'll talk about, obviously. Donkey Kong Country, which, incredible game. And then the third one I've mentioned before, I think it was Wing Commander, which is not a great game. But it is an interesting one. I think they even made a movie based off of it, which is the most bizarre thing that's probably ever happened in video game movies. But anyway, Zelda, he gave it to me, and he goes, and it just shows you again just the state of things at the time, and also really the state of Nintendo. He said, this is Zelda. Do you know what it is? And I said, not really. And he said, it's a JRPG. No, he just said it's an RPG. He didn't say JRPG. He said, it's an RPG. And that's kind of it. Like, he was just like, it's an RPG. You should play it. And I'm like, okay.
The earliest memory I have is my dad was like playing the game, and he got frustrated with some part of the game. And this was around the time where I was like 3 years old. So I was like really tiny. And he was playing the game, and he got frustrated with some part of it. And he was just like, I'm just going to walk away. Only for him to come back into the room. And I was there playing the game with the controller upside down. And I do remember at that age, for whatever reason, I played every game with the controller upside down. I don't know what was wrong with me. And don't ask me to do it now. I can't do it anymore. But yeah, I do remember doing that. And my dad was like, he's playing it with the controller upside down. And he's doing a good job.
Yeah, so funny you said Zelda 3 because that's my first exposure to it. Seeing it in the magazine, either Nintendo Power, I think, as Zelda 3. They linked it as Zelda 3, and they had like a picture of it, and that's my first exposure. Other than that, I knew it was coming out, and there was an issue of Nintendo Power with Zelda Link to the Past in it. And I wanted the game really bad because my friend, my very well-off friend who I talked about in the NES Zelda game, the same friend I played with, he was going to get it. I didn't get a lot of games per year. I got some on birthdays, one on a birthday, and then maybe one for Christmas was the big time. But to get this game, I had like a savings bond of $50, and I had to bug my parents a lot to cash that savings bond. It was like a security bond or something. So I did that to cash it, and they let me cash it to buy the Zelda A Link to the Past, and that's how I got it.
So basically, my cousin gave us his Super Nintendo when he got it in 64, and he had like, I think like 5-6 games with it, and obviously the Link to the Past was one of them. And it was definitely the one game that me, my sister, and two of my like neighborhood friends in the area that like we spent like all summer like trying to like play through that game, and it was it was a very good time.
I knew what Zelda was because I had seen Ocarina previously. I hadn't really played it, but I had seen it. I knew what Zelda was. But this is my first exposure to like 2D Zelda, classic Zelda, and I remember popping it into my Super Nintendo that had only been playing Mario World and DK Country, two platformers, popping it in and seeing the opening animation for the first time of the Triforces go oh, it's so cool. And I remember just thinking, wow, like this is something special.
Now, their stories are all fine and dandy, but what's my story with the game? Well, I don't want to just tell you, so here, let me show you what it was like playing A Link to the Past as a young little Keaton. It was rough. That's right, my first time playing A Link to the Past was circa 2002 on a non-backlit GBA. Lucky me. I don't remember much because I could hardly see much. In fact, I never made it much further than the sewer section in the beginning of the game. But make no mistake, the little I did play left a huge impression. I especially recall the menacing guards. Something about the fact that you can talk to them before entering Hyrule Castle makes the upset that much greater once you get your uncle's sword and they start attacking you. And I know I mentioned how dark the screen was, but you have to bear in mind that the opening segment is also dark. Your first item is a lantern, and you are exiting in the dark of night amidst a torrential downpour. As you descend the castle, it only gets darker to the point that you need the lantern. I can give myself a pass on not progressing much further in that version. But let's go back to the original version. Ah, yes, the Super Nintendo. Those were the days, huh? A Link to the Past is the first of a handful of Zelda games to release within 1 year of a Nintendo console. In Japan, A Link to the Past dropped on the Super Famicom's 1-year anniversary, November 21st, 1991. Mark it down in your calendars, folks, and wish Linku a very happy anniversary. For us in the West, we were actually blessed with the title 8 months after the Super Nintendo released. That was on April 13th, 1992. We may have got the title later than Japan, but make no mistake, it found its way into many homes along with the console.
I remember mostly playing it a lot at my friend's house too. We kind of figured it out together, I believe. And that, I remember that because just hanging out with friends and doing it. and he had it, I had it, I'd go home and play it. Funny enough, my sister, she only played a few games with me. She played Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. We used to do co-op on that. And she started a game of A Link to the Past on my copy. And to this day, I still have my original save. It has 99 games on it, 99 save games on it. Times I've played it. And it has her game, Melissa, and it's still there. She made it to like she got the first pendant in the almost like the beginning where you go after you meet Sarah Hassler or whatever, and she still has like 3 hearts or 4 hearts. Maybe after she got the first heart and beat the first boss, so it's still there. And I saw her maybe a year or so ago. I saw her again, and I mentioned that, hey, I still have your Zelda save. Next time you're here, if you ever want to give it another shot. She's like, oh no, that's okay, I'm good.
Everyone I interviewed seemed to receive A Link to the Past as one of their first video games. The game clearly proved itself as a console and a family juggernaut, a must-own if you will. The technical leap between the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo was massive, and in A Link to the Past, it shows. Between the expanded color palette, the added element of 3D movement, and the enhanced audio capabilities, the game was made to make a technical statement. I missed that element of technical impressiveness the first time that I played all the way through A Link to the Past. And I know this is criminal almost, but I didn't actually play it through until 2019. Hear me out though. I never owned a Wii U, and the 3DS I owned did not have the Super Nintendo Ambassador program, so my first time actually getting to play through it was when I was gifted a Switch. And I had the Super Nintendo service because it's like $20 a year, that's nothing. And so when I played it, I really didn't pick up on just how great it was because I had played through the vast majority of Zelda titles up to that point. But in 2024, I recognized immediately what was so special about this game. Why? Well, the thing is, I've been playing the games in order of chronological release. And you really can't help but see the drastic change between versions when you do it that way. As a point of comparison, look for yourself and pay close attention on a technical level to how each of these first 3 games begin and how they differ. It is shocking. Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. I love you both. But A Link to the Past just hits different. I would describe Zelda 1 and Zelda 2's audio-visual presentation as chipper and charming. They're cute games that do the most they can with the tools afforded to them. Hey, who am I, Nardwar? Anyways, both games feel more like simple games. They're well designed and they're excellent, but they are simple nevertheless. A Link to the Past is just so much more complex. Take a moment to admire the wind, the rain, the sounds of Link splashing in a puddle of water. simple environmental sound effects that we take for granted were a luxury that couldn't be afforded even a console generation earlier.
It just made an impression on me. Just like you go through the village, or you go into the houses, and the music changes, and that was incredible. And I just remember just loving that game like from the beginning. And so it was one of those things at Front Row Video where you know, on Friday, you try to get there as early as you could after school, because it was one of those things you're trying to beat the person to the punch to be able to rent it. And I do remember getting that game, that it would have been that Christmas. And it was because it was one of those, you know, must haves. I was just blown away. I was just so excited. I was, that there was this new Zelda, and it just felt different. And the fact that, I mean, you don't think about these things at the time, but it definitely, looking back on it, definitely more refined. And they did a lot of great things with the game, I think, in terms of making that next step, I would say.
Whereas the NES games had charming and chipper chip-tune scores to start, A Link to the Past opens with dark, layered instrumentation on what I presume is a keyboard, and that Hyrule Castle theme is one of the darkest you'll hear in the series. Man, I keep bringing up how dark this game is, but it just is. And that's kind of the point, is that the game excels at presenting a dark narrative framework for our hero to embark on his journey. Link. He comes to town. Well, eventually, but before that he begins the game in bed, waking up to his uncle, leaving the house, sword and shield equipped. Link, I'm going out for a while. Don't leave the house. Can we appreciate this scene for a moment? Link has an uncle. Link also has a house. I understand that Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 have intricate stories, but where do you get those stories? Mostly in the manuals. What sets A Link to the Past apart is that the stories are in-game. And it's really not to fault the previous games. I fully understand the extent to which hardware limitations may have made storytelling in games difficult for that time. It's simply to appreciate how far they were able to come since that time. And A Link to the Past doesn't just tell its stories, it shows them.
I also vividly remember just the fact that like your I think he's your uncle, right? The fact that he like goes out on his own and he's got like the sword and shield, and then you have to figure out like where he is, and you go into the castle's sewers and he's just there. There's really no explanation as to what happened to him, but he's just like beat up and he's just like, I can't do this. You gotta do it on your own, and gives you the sword and shield and teaches you how to do the spin attack. For whatever reason, as like a kid, that was like really stood out to me of like, I think this kind of ties back to like this, you're doing this all on your own. Because it's like, yeah, like your uncle was like the only person in the game. It kind of felt, especially at that point, because it's like it's raining, it's kind of like dark and gloomy, and Zelda's like communicating telepathically or whatever. She's like, Link, come get me. So she's like in a state of need, and you just started the game, and it's like you're just kind of thrown in there, even though you're super like guided into what you're supposed to do. But as a little kid, it really feels like, oh man, I'm just kind of thrown into this and I gotta figure this out. But like having what is like your only aid in the game just like so immediately gone really like hammered in this idea of like, yeah, I got to do this and I got to do this by myself. But I also really like that at the very end of the game when you finish it, I guess spoilers for like one of the last things that you see in the game is your uncle's actually fine. He's there. He's like, you do the little spin attack with him at the end and you're both posing and it's like, oh no, he's okay. It's fine.
In many respects, A Link to the Past is a Zelda game of many firsts. It's the first Zelda game in 16-bit. It's the first Zelda game that fully optimized the inventory system. It's the first Zelda game to give you the Excalibur of the Master Sword. It's the first Zelda game to let you swim. It's the first Zelda game to implement a 2-act structure. It's the first Zelda game to chunk the heart piece upgrades into fourths. It's the first Zelda game to have complex characters and storytelling. It's the only game to give Link pink hair. Alright, that's more of a joke. But A Link to the Past doesn't joke around, not when it comes to its origins. A Link to the Past pays its respects. It pays respects to the towns of Zelda 2, with a fully realized town in Kakariko. It pays respects to, and expands on, top-down adventuring from Zelda 1. It pays respects to Zelda 1's general openness, offering its own broad world full of things to do and places to go. It pays respect to Mario, for some reason, in a house in Kakariko Village. It also, surprisingly, pays respects to the RPG genre as a whole. Hey, Keaton, you know who loves RPGs? Nah, who loves RPGs? Why, none other than everyone else's favorite role-playing protagonist at Nintendo, Shigeru Miyamoto. That's right, motherfuckers. It's time for another Miyamoto moment. Now, despite not being a huge RPG enthusiast, even Miyamoto can't deny the genre's influences on A Link to the Past. In a 1989 conversation between Shigeru Miyamoto and Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii, Shigeru appears genuinely interested in the RPG mechanics in Horii's then upcoming Dragon Quest IV, while also touting his desire to add party members to A Link to the Past. Ever since I started making the first game in the series, I've been saying that the third Zelda will feature a party, one that consists of the protagonist, who's a mix between an elf and the fighter, a magic user, and a girl. The fairy that appeared in Adventure of Link was actually a party member, designed for Zelda 3. A girl who looked a little like a fairy, and whose role consisted of reconnaissance, like the characters in action games that don't engage enemies in combat, but rather go and scout out the surroundings and return to you safely. It's also fun when an action-adventure game lets you choose who to send out. That's the sort of thing I'm thinking I'd like to put in Zelda 3. Oh, Miyamoto, you're cute. Talking to Mr. Yuji Horii, the grandfather of RPGs, turn-based RPGs anyway, about how you'd like to make Zelda an RPG. I get the hunch that someone at Nintendo talked you out of it. I mean, that was 1989. You had a few years to reflect. And so we got Link to the Past as it is, as well as the Zelda series, as more action RPG-esque. And that's probably the right move. And listen, I don't really care about the whole is Zelda an RPG debate. I think it is a discussion, but it is clear that the whole RPG system as Miyamoto planned it kind of fell through, but not entirely. One of the things I love about Link to the Past is that there are 7 characters at least that follow Link around for some period of time during the playthrough. In semi-chronological order, they are Princess Zelda, Average Middle-Aged Man, Lost Old Man, Monkey, Fake Maiden, Treasure Chest, and Super Bomb. Together, they form the ultimate RPG party, the Miyamoto 7, aka Mode 7. Now look, I'm just joking, but wouldn't that be cool? Come on, I know there's a Miyamoto 7 crowd out there somewhere. Anyways. Now, sure, they don't function like true RPG party members, but they do serve unique functions. Zelda helps you push a heavy block. The man next to the signpost will yell at you and chase you around, and serves an important function later. The caveman directs you out of Death Mountain. The monkey loves rupees and opens a dungeon. The fake maiden gets exposed in the light. The treasure chest will confound you as to how to discover its hidden item, and the super bomb, well, that's an endgame secret. They're small touches, but simply having other characters follow you around at times breaks the solitude that is so characteristic of the series. It reminds me of why so many people hold Pokémon Heart Gold and Soul Silver in such high regard. In those games, your first party Pokémon follows you around on the overworld. For a long time, no Pokémon games did anything similar. This simple touch goes a long way in making the experience so memorable.
When you first go to the Dark World and you're going to that first dungeon that's in the Dark World, you go through like a little maze that's like hidden. And when you come out, there's a monkey that follows you around. Well, as an adult, you go, oh, they're telling you that you have this monkey so that you can then use him to progress through the game. Like that's your brain. Like nowadays, our brains just know that. As a kid, me and my brother were freaking out. We were like, why is this monkey following us around? What did you do? And he's like, I didn't do anything. Like he's just there. And we're like, no. Let's go back. And so we'd go through the maze again, go all the way back. And then he's like, I don't even remember what the mechanic is. If he leaves or whatever, because you're not supposed to do that. Like, why would you do that? But I know we went back and we were like, okay. And then we pulled back out up into the thing. The monkey's following us. And we're just like sitting there like, can you hit it with your sword? And we're like, no, it's not working. And like, what do you do with that guy? And then we got up and he's like, I'll open this dungeon for you for like, what was it? Like 100 rupees or 10 rupees or something. And at the time we didn't know how to farm rupees. We didn't realize how easy it was. The game like hands you rupees by the dozens. We didn't even realize it. So we were pretty poor and we're like, well, we're gonna have to make our rupee dollars stretch. Like, I don't know if we can do this. I said, let's just do it. And so we did it and we're like, he opened the door for us. Yay. So, it's a completely different mindset when you're playing it than it is now. But it's a delight, those kinds of things to kids. And I think that's an important thing is that, we can play Zelda as jaded adults, but it's a completely different experience when you're a kid. There's a certain whimsy to it.
Speaking of memories, man, does A Link to the Past deliver, even in scenes and settings alone. Between a light world, a dark world, and 10 elaborately crafted palaces / dungeons. It's very unclear what they're supposed to be called. There's like a mix. There is simply so much to see and to do. The light world is full of iconic landmarks that have permeated throughout the Legend of Zelda series. Examples of these landmarks include Kakariko Village, the Lost Woods, Death Mountain, Zora's Domain, and Hyrule Castle. It's not the first time some of these have appeared, but each one is still iconic in A Link to the Past. Kakariko alone lends a huge sense of personality and personability to A Link to the Past, with so many memorable people and situations. One kid is so sick that he can't go outside, and he'll give you his bug net to go live the adventure for him. A father at a bar hasn't seen his son in ages, only to reminisce when hearing his favorite tune. Other villagers think you're a fugitive and will run in their homes or call the guards when you are spotted. Even when departing Kakariko, there are other moments where interacting with NPCs provides some sense of relation to the world around you. There is so much life in this little town, and the multiple stories go a long way in eliciting your feelings.
The one thing I do remember that was kind of funny was that I remember when we got to Death Mountain, and there's that part where you go to the Dark World real quick, and you turn into a bunny, and then the bunny is you can't attack or anything. I remember in the dungeon there on Death Mountain, you had to get the moon crystal or the moon pearl or whatever it's called, the one that basically allows you to actually survive in the Dark World. I remember when we first got to the Dark World, we actually forgot to get that item, so we were literally on the gold pyramid thing in the bunny, and I thought you had to literally beat the game like that. It gets really weird, but it's kind of fascinating though, because I don't think in like other games you really saw stuff like that. I mean, I guess Majora's Mask is kind of like that, where you put the mask on, you transform into different things. But no, this one it's like you go to another world and you like literally like turn into a bunny and you're like you can't attack and you're like vulnerable and then everything else is like trippy.
While The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past's Light World gives life to so many Zelda staples, its Dark World is equally effective at taking them away. This brings us to today's segment of Keaton Facts. Oni. Disgusting. Depraved. Anti-human monsters. Oni, for a lack of a better term, are just that. According to the Book of Yokai's Yokai Codex, the Oni is a person-shaped anti-person, encapsulating everything that imperils humans and human society. The earliest images of Oni are seen in Buddhist depictions of hell, such as the Jigoku Zoshi, otherwise known as Hell Scrolls. Throughout history, Oni are portrayed with common elements such as horns, large muscular bodies, a violent demeanor, and a frightening presence. This analogy is perfect for The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past Dark World, as it is full of Oni-like creatures. The earliest examples of Oni in the game include the Moblins and their horn-helmeted siblings, Taros. These bullish creatures mimic the sword soldiers from the Light World, charging at Link when visual contact is made, while the lesser pig monsters throw spears at Link from afar. Their relational closeness to the sword soldiers of the Light World is precisely what helps characterize them as Oni. They're bipedal monsters, demonstrating human-like behavior, in other words, anti-persons. Less prevalent but more formidable are the Hinox. These pony-tailed cyclops roam the land, chucking oversized bombs at Link. Although easily avoided, they do represent a starker threat than anything from the Light World. They also embody the more brutish characteristics of Oni. The demonic nature of the Dark World is further exacerbated through its infested terrain. The concept is described to you by Sahasrara upon entering the Dark World. The place where you now stand was the Golden Land, but evil power turned it into the Dark World. In order to save the Light World, you must win back the Golden Power. So what exactly are we saving the Light World from? Well, take a look at your surroundings. Kakariko gets the life sucked out of it. The Lost Woods get overrun by monsters and traps. Death Mountain becomes a torrential lightning-ridden mess populated by Lynels, centaur-like monsters that fire lightning at you. These guys might as well be Oni as well. I mean, look at their faces. They kind of look like Greek god statues. The endearing and vivacious Light World is flipped on its head to become the Dark World, riddled with monsters while rid of humanity. Of course, one can complicate the interpretation by extending empathy to the Dark World's creatures. They are simply lost beings trying to find their place in the world. Some interpretations have interpolated Oni as reflections on the fear of historically marginalized populations. When the wizard Aghanim captures Princess Zelda, he announces, "It is now only a matter of time before evil covers the land." The Hylian fear in this case is that Aghanim and Ganon's army will overtake Hyrule. But every time a moblin is struck or a Taros is slain, remember that they manifest exactly who and what we already see and know in our light world. They say history is written by the victors, and the sages go a long way in helping Link emerge victorious. Are all Oni malevolent? Is Link any better than a Ganem? Are both merely pawns and vessels manipulated toward inevitable and irreversible consequences? Some questions are best left unanswered. Let's now turn our attention to the dungeons and the palaces. Without them, we would be neglecting perhaps the greatest asset to the game. In order to truly appreciate just how impressive they are in A Link to the Past, we must first turn our attention to the labyrinths and palaces from the first two games. Zelda 1's labyrinths and Zelda 2's palaces are primarily exploration and combat based. In Zelda 1, the labyrinths move fast and require enemies to be defeated in order to make small keys appear. In Zelda 2, the small keys are usually lying around, blocked off by an enemy or a terrain obstacle. With the exception of the rare block that has to be pushed, or a ledge that has to be cleared from a spell, neither of the NES Zelda games fully utilize or develop this concept of puzzle-based exploration. Enter A Link to the Past, and that formula changes dramatically. This is really the first game to fully develop the inventory system, as each dungeon features signature items that assist with the exploration of said dungeon. So for example, in the first dungeon you get the bow. Without the bow, you couldn't attack the later Igors. It also helps with the boss fight. The most famous item, I'll let you guess, what is it? It's the hookshot, baby. Everyone loves the hookshot, and it takes its roots in Link to the Past's Swamp Palace. The hookshot helps players bounce around the room in ways that they couldn't before, and it's also highly functional against common enemies and the palace boss. Later dungeons in the Dark World test how well do you know the item pool in order to progress through the dungeon. I really like how in the Thieves' Palace, you are using not only the Titan mitts to rescue the maiden, but also bombs to expose light that then expose the palace boss, blind the thief. This functions dually as a narrative allusion to the legendary thief of Kakariko Village who hates light. Really well thought out stuff. Turtle Rock stands out amidst the crowd of palaces with segments like the one that requires you to ride a platform made by the Cane of Somaria while firing the fire rod at 4 unlit lanterns to open a door that you need to get through in mere seconds. In addition to the fire rod, you'll need the ice rod and either half magic or impeccable aim on Turtle Rock's boss. It's no wonder people tend to remember Turtle Rock over some of the others. While I do think future top-down Zelda games handle the puzzle-based exploration in equally, if not more creative ways, I also find it somewhat unfair to compare Link to the Past dungeons to dungeons going forward. You can do so in terms of preference, and even for quality, but doing so misses the point for what Link to the Past dungeons are, an origin point. For its time, and even today, they hold up quite well. I really like those in and out segments in the Lost Woods. I don't even know where you see something like that in the series going forward. The Ice Palace continues to stump me today, and that Moldorm boss fight still knocks me off the platform every time. There are some examples of excellence in A Link to the Past dungeons, and that's notwithstanding perhaps their greatest element, the bosses. If you threw a dungeon number or name at me, I could probably identify the boss associated with it. Let's see. Swamp Palace. Oh, what is that one? Swamp Palace? That's gotta be Argus, the octopus-looking thing that bounces around the room, and I think you need to use the hook shot to take off some of his eyeballs. Skull Woods. Oh, that's Mothula. That's that big bad moth where spikes are moving on conveyor belts towards you while the moth is firing rays and you have to avoid his attacks. Ice Palace. Oh, that's tricky. That's the frost snare. I don't know the name, but I know what it is. It's like a Krakow looking eyeball cloud trapped in a ice block, and you got to use a fire rod on it, and then I think it starts firing lightning at you. Look, these bosses are big, they're bad, and they're iconic for the right reasons. They retain the perfectly balanced level of challenge while retaining their fearsomeness. For me to be able to identify them so readily after only really having played the game 4 or 5 times shows how memorable they are. Poke and pick at it as one might, no boss in A Link to the Past is nearly as unremarkable as the Nickelodeon face boss in Link's Awakening. And that's the only boss I remember from Link's Awakening. Jeez, I can't wait to talk about that game. Now look, I also understand that Dungeon Order is relatively fixed in A Link to the Past. I mean, hell, they're numbered on the damn map, so I mean, I guess you're expected to follow that order. But when these dungeons are so consistent, does it really matter?
I think now it's a double-edged sword, because I appreciate it for being an open Zelda game with exploration being like its main component. But also, as I've gotten older, I've become a little more aware of game design and the way that games are meant to be played, and what the developers, how developers use certain tools in the game and the environment to push you towards certain directions. And a lot of the things that I don't like 3D Zelda for, like the linear aspects, are still sort of here in Link to the Past. They're just hidden really well. They're just really well camouflaged where you don't feel it, but they're still here. So at one point I appreciate it wholeheartedly, because it does feel like it's a big open adventure that we can go anywhere and do anything. But on the other hand, I see it as being this more linear game in a way, where you still have a sequence you have to do. You still have a certain, there's like a best way to do everything. And that's something that I've complained about later Zelda games doing. And it turns out it's been here this whole damn time. So, it's, like I said, double-edged sword. But I still like to think of it as the open explorative Zelda game that influenced like games like Breath of the Wild, which I do greatly appreciate. But again, that's just my old man brain, my old jaded man brain. Where I'm like looking at things and I'm like, damn it, it's not as cool as I thought it was as a kid, because this and that, and, you start to be more critical.
I appreciate the fact that you can break sequence at all. And I did use that to my advantage on my most recent playthrough. By going to Palace 3 before Palace 4 in the Dark World, you get the Titansmith, which makes the Blacksmith and the Magic Imp accessible. This assists greatly in the Skull Woods, as it gives you a level 3 sword and a doubly powerful magic meter, making that moth battle, I wouldn't call it a cakewalk, but at least easier. There are other ways to break sequence, and I'd love to hear other player stories of how they navigate the overworld in the late game. At this point, I've shared a lot of my perspective and would like to spotlight the perspectives of fans and friends who I've interviewed, who also had meaningful upbringings with the game. Let's take a listen.
The Super Nintendo, like, in general, just like, I just love what they did with the graphics and just how, I want to use the word cartoony, but like, I don't know, it just, I just love the way it looked. The music, just everything about the game seemed to fit. Like it seemed like it was done in a meaningful way, and I thought it was executed really well.
I was blown away by the graphics at times. I forgot how beautiful the bosses are. I'm thinking of the moth is really, there's a lot going on in that fight. The scorpion in that first dungeon in the Dark World, when you're chipping away at his like mask, that's some pretty advanced looking graphics. Like it looks really cool, and him like shooting his tail out, a little bit arcadey, but it's impressive nonetheless. There's a lot of cool effects in the game. I'm playing it, and my girlfriend said, "Whatever you're playing, it has really good music." So for whatever that's worth, there you go. It has. I think people do like the soundtrack to it. It's certainly in my head all the time, but I don't obsess about music, especially from video games. But you know, as a kid, I heard that overworld theme quite a bit, so that's part of my childhood.
I also remember like if you leave the title screen running, eventually it will give you like a lore dump of sorts. It will give you like some exposition on like the backstory, and I haven't like looked it up in a while, so I don't remember exactly what is said in that. But like I remember thinking as a kid, like the pixel art was really cool, and I didn't really understand what was being said because like it's going into like the backstory of Hyrule and stuff like that. So like I'm like 3 years old, so obviously I don't really get it. But like I just remember looking at it and thinking, oh, this looks really cool.
Well, I think the originality of Link to the Past, with, like I said, going from Light World to Dark World, I think was just really cool. It was something we just never seen before. So there's that. It was the first one to doing it. And then I would say the dungeons are more memorable in Link to the Past, I think. Because I'll be honest, like, now granted, like, I haven't played Link Between Worlds in a long time, but, like, and also, to be fair, too, I never actually, like, completed that game. I just, like, I played it for, like, a few hours, and I really like it a lot. But the thing is that, like, I don't really remember a lot of them right now. But, you know, I do plan on, like, actually, like, doing a whole playthrough of it at some point. Not sure when, but just from what I remember playing of it before, yeah, I'll be honest, I can tell you that I don't remember it, like, super, super well.
Ocarina of Time, I think, is the other comparison to make to Link to the Past.
Okay.
I think they both promise a lot of the same ideas, presented in different ways. The idea of the first big narrative in a Zelda game, the idea of puzzle-oriented dungeons, an open map to explore, which is actually linear, but it gives you the illusion of being an open world. A lot of the elements of Link to the Past were sort of just, to me, they were sort of just pushed over into 3D with Ocarina. And again, I don't really like Ocarina, but I can say that yeah, they do share similar elements to me.
So this was never one that I played a lot. Like after I beat it growing up, I think I played it a lot growing up, and then all throughout my 20s, 30s, I never played it. I didn't play it again until probably like I'd pop it in and play it, or played it on 3DS Virtual Console, but I didn't play it again until around 2019, which was the last time I played it. And then again, just recently. So it's not like I played it a lot, actually. I played it a lot as a kid, but it's one I never... Like, people always say, like, it's one of the best of all time. And I think it's very good. Like, it's weird, because there's a lot of games growing up that you play, and you're like, oh, that was good. And then you put it down, and then later discourse on the internet, and you hear, like, this is the best thing ever. It's, like, the best game ever. There's certain games like that I played and have that come to mind. And Zelda's one of them, where They always say it's like the best ever, and it's a very good game. But to me, it was never like the best Zelda.
Yeah, and like every game, there are things that can be frustrating about it. I'll be honest with you, like I hate stupid Death Mountain. I don't know what the issue is, but I can never seem to get off that stupid thing. I don't know what it is. Like that in the Ice Palace in the Dark World. It's like, dude, like where am I going? But anyway, even just going back and playing the game and just noticing these things, it's like, man, they really hit it out of the park. And not even just like a Link to the Past, but sticking with the Link to the Past, I think it when you just think about the other two installments of the game, and then just how it expanded Hyrule, and you have castles, you have guys that are guarding the castle. Just the details, it felt complete, I would say, for the time.
Little touches in it. When you're getting the Master Sword, you're walking up through, and first of all, going through the woods, you find a bunch of fake swords, which is kind of funny. I don't know whose idea that was, obviously, because I didn't make the game, but that's a funny idea. I remember as a kid, I was constantly fooled. I was like, I think I got it. It was like, no. sorry, bro. But then when you finally go through it, you're walking through this forest, little like outcrop in the forest, and there's all these animals that just like run by you. What an interesting touch. Doesn't really happen in the game besides that, but really fascinating touch right there. And it makes it feel so memorable, and so I don't remember other Master Sword moments feeling like that, where it was just so momentous. And then I'll end with the little story, because we love Dragon Quest, and I love the little stories that series tells. And I don't really think of Zelda as a game that tells those kinds of stories. Most of those are like, I dropped my ball in that dungeon. Can you go get it? And then that spurs you to do the dungeon. But there is a little story in it that's very moving. It's the boy with the flute in the little forest area, and there's the animals that like to listen to him play the flute. And you come to him. How does it go? You find him in the Dark World, and he's like deformed, and and if you're in the Light World, if you approach him, he plays and then he disappears. And then if you find him in the Dark World, you get to approach him, and he's like, "Find my flute, please. Just keep the music going." And I think that's such a moving, like it's such a small piece of it, and it doesn't really impact the world much, except that you get a flute out of it. But it's somebody put thought into that, and I was impressed by that. It was like they didn't have to do that, but it's a really moving scene, and he just turns to a tree, right? Like as soon after you do that, he just like fades into a tree. What a beautiful, like, it's kind of heartbreaking, but it's like he's passing on the music to you, which is cool. I think it's really cool.
Even if I didn't like fully understand it, it still gave the world like this air of believability, because like I could still like vaguely understand like, oh, this is like talking about like the history. And I don't think like Zelda 1 or 2 really got into like backstory or lore or anything like that. And even if it's not like super complex in A Link to the Past, just the impression of a sense of history, I think again adds a lot to like the believability of Hyrule. And that's something else I really like about Link to the Past is Hyrule feels like a place. Like in Zelda 1, and I don't mean to dog on Zelda 1. Zelda 1's a great game for what it was, and it's super important. But like in Zelda 1, Hyrule just feels like a big maze that you're like running around and you do stuff in. As opposed to Hyrule in A Link to the Past, where there's towns, there's people that you can talk to in those towns, and they have their own lives going on. Like, it really feels like it has more of a sense of place. Like, it feels like a lived-in location compared to the other games. Although Zelda 2 did try to do that as well, to be fair.
Yeah, the ones in Link to the Past are like they really stand out to me more. Like I was saying earlier, the one in the Skull Forest, I always thought was like really awesome looking. I love the way how like like this you go through like the different like spines and like the rib cages and of course there's that like one like the fact that it has like multiple entrances I think is really cool too. Like you got like one that's in like a stump, and then you got like an entrance to a dungeon where you fall through a hole. And there's like the really cool looking one that looks like something right out of like Aliens with like the the one I'm talking about, right? The really like creepy looking entrance.
Oh, for the forest one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to use the
It's the one where you
flame
need
rod.
the fire rod.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I always thought that entranceway was like so like awesome and creepy looking, and like I said, it looks like something out of Alien or like H.R. Giger kind of design. I was gonna say I was just gonna say that there's a lot of like really cool, unique dungeons in that game that were like unlike anything else before. Like I was saying with the forest one, like I said, the one in the town was really cool. And then there's the turtle castle, because it's a castle that's a turtle. Like And then, of course, there was Ganon's castle, like, on the Death Mountain was, like, kind of, like, rainbow-colored with the shield, or with the shield that's surrounding it. I always thought it was like, oh, it's a rave party. I know that's not, like, like, the main feature of it, but I always thought it was, like, kind of, like, cool-looking.
It's in the canon now. The Ganon canon. Ganon's throwing a rave in the Dark World.
Oh man, I feel like a record, man. I feel like a broken record. Man, just everybody in the comments is gonna be like, "He just talked about how linear the games were the whole time." But it's basically that. It's basically the fact that it feels. I don't like a lot of 3D Zelda games because of that fact. Because they became where this game gives you the illusion of adventure. It is still linear. The later games like Ocarina, Twilight Princess, like even Wind Waker, which I love, they're a little more evident with their linearity. Where you can kind of walk around and look at other things, but like you still need to go in this way. Like you need to go that way, and you can't really get off of that path to do much. So I think that's still what draws me back to Link to the Past is that. You can't go far off the path. You're gonna get back on it, but you can still veer. You can still adventure. Like there's still stuff to find. There's still stuff to do in the world. It feels more open to me. But that's also probably just the fact that we're talking about a 2D game made in 1991 and a 3D game made with brand new 3D technology and like what year was Ocarina? Like 98 or something?
Yeah.
97?
98.
So it's like, the peak of 2D gaming versus the birth of 3D gaming, it's not really a fair comparison because they mastered one craft and they were just starting the other one. So it's hard to compare those two in that way.
It was a very good one, but it was never my cream to the crop Zelda. But playing it again, I see more of that. I guess people who played it more, like I played and keep playing it after they had it, keep playing it like yearly, I could see them like coming to that conclusion. But I think the more I play the game, the more I appreciate it even more. Like I liked it then, I played it again, I liked it even more, and then I'm playing it again, I think I like it even more, and I'm playing it again, I think I'll like it even more. It's just replaying games, you get more more appreciation of them, and you can kind of see where people are coming from. Because if you play a game a few times, I guess it doesn't quite sink in. But yeah, I've appreciated it even more now than I did probably growing up, just in the moment of playing it. Just because it was a game I played and I really liked it. But I moved on to another game.
These are just some highlights of my interviews with A Link to the Past fans and enthusiasts. Please check out the full interviews in the Zelda fan interview playlist on my channel or in the description below, as well as their individual channels. Now, let's give some final thoughts. When it comes to A Link to the Past, the word that always comes to mind for me is masterpiece. Is it a masterpiece? What makes a game a masterpiece? Does the game need to be flawless? Or do the flaws need to be trivial in comparison to the grand scheme? I align more with the latter definition, but I think A Link to the Past might actually meet the former. What? Link to the Past is flawless? And I didn't always think that, but hear me out. A flaw is a mistake. I don't think anything's a mistake in A Link to the Past. If you're asking me about narrative concept, I think it's perfectly well done. If you're asking me on a technical level, I think it remains smooth, silky, and just an experience today. If you're asking me about combat, I think it plays very well. And if you're asking me about game design, I think that these dungeons actually compete with other dungeons that go forward in the series. That's something to think about. Now listen, you could argue either way. It is or it isn't a masterpiece, and I'm totally fine with that, but I do think that you need the full picture. I think you need to put this in perspective with former games in the series, and also understand what was it like back in the day. The thing about A Link to the Past is that it's not just a jack of all trades. It's actually a master of most of them. The narrative framework is incredibly well considered, the presentation is outstanding even today, and the dungeons are very well designed. For it to be as smooth and enjoyable today as it was back in the day, I can safely say that The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is not only a masterpiece, but also a period piece in Zelda and video game history, and one that is best studied and understood even today. Thanks everyone for riding aboard the SS Keaton today and watching the video up to this point. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing and joining the crew. I also got a Discord where you can talk all things Zelda and more. Next up in the video interview cycle is The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. We can look forward to some interesting perspectives and a future retrospective. With that being said, thanks for watching. Captain Keaton! Yeah!